The Toronto Raptors get absolutely destroyed. This was not fun. And for some people, this is going to be an opportunity to crash out and say, tear down the whole thing. And it's really bad, but it's not so bad. It's not so bad. It's not so bad at all. Now, there were some things about this game that were really bad. Specifically, your franchise player uh, had his worst game of the season. I think we can all agree that Scottie Barnes probably had his worst game of the season, and it came at the worst time because there is not a single game right now in the NBA. Every eyeball in the basketball world, and this is by design. The NBA scheduled these NBA Cup quarterfinals and semifinals away from Thursday night football, Sunday night football. They did not want anybody to have any other choice but to tune into the Toronto Raptors versus the New York Knicks. And if you're a Raptor fan, that should devastate you because tonight, the franchise player that you have been defending all over the internet and saying, he's great, y'all don't watch him. Well, they finally watched him. And Scottie Barnes just really sucked today. Was really, really bad. He was not the only one. The Toronto Raptors struggled as a team. There's a lot of positives to glean out of this. Number one, the Raptors were undefeated getting to this point. Let's not forget that. Okay. Let's not forget that they won 4 cup games. And I don't think anybody in the world saw that coming into this season. Okay. So that's important. Number two, this is an opportunity for growth. You were severely undermanned. Severely. Immanuel Quickley, late scratch, illness, can't play. RJ Barrett can't play. Jamison Battle, who I sincerely believe could have swung this loss from a blowout loss to a competitive loss, he was not available. So you're without 3 of probably your top 9, 10 guys. And what makes matters worse is some of your young players came up very, very small in a really big moment. And this is one of the biggest moments of some of their young careers. This was the biggest game of Jamal Shed's career. And he came up pretty big. He hit his shots. He hit a career high in threes. That was good. This game was also the biggest game of Jacoby Walter's career to date. And he came up pretty big too. He was pretty big off the bench. So shout outs to Jamal Shed and Jacoby Walter for coming up really big. Easily, this was the biggest game of Colin Murray Boyles and Chucky Hepburn's career. They're rookies. And quite frankly, neither one of them really looked like they made much of an impact. But Colin Murray Boyles, he had some good moments. The bad moments were he got stuffed at the rim, looked very afraid to go up over contact. They have a couple of mega sized 7-footers down there. And when they put up their arms, it doesn't matter if Karl-Anthony Towns is a terrible defender in space. 2 feet from the basket, he can guard just about anybody. And that type of length was very difficult to score on for someone like Colin Murray Boyles, especially when you've got long wing defenders like OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges digging down from the corners. I think this was a mega exposure for some of your young players, including Scottie, who is 24. Sometimes we forget that Scottie is 24. And we will talk about Scottie's bad process. I think the most disappointing part of this game for me was just his floating, his total apprehension to take over the game, his unwillingness to make mistakes, his unwillingness to take shots. I mean, I'd rather you go out losing the game shooting 3 for 22. That would show me you cared. I'd rather you foul out of the game trying to defend. Scottie Barnes with a very confusing performance. And I don't know what to make of this because honestly, going into this game, if there was one thing I knew for sure, BI is going to show up. Scottie's going to show up. BI showed up in his way, right? And 6 for 18 ain't far off from 3 for 22. Hey, man, that's fair. But it wasn't an assertive shot selection, right? It was a lot of passive shots. It wasn't like, I'm trying to get mine going. This is a big moment for me. Let me take over this game. No, it was a lot of complaining to the referees. It was a ton of sulking. It was a lot of complaining. It was a lot of driftless, aimless screen setting, camping out in the corner, passing the ball. No, not even looking to score sometimes, just a really horrible process game. This is a terrible process game for Scottie Barnes. I think if he looks back on the tape of this game, he will see 100 places where he could have attacked downhill. And unfortunately, when the Knicks zoned up on your lack of shooting, Darko Rajakovic had to go away from his lineup and go to something else. And the problem is, where do you go? Where do you go? The one shooter you have, Grady Dick, he can't buy a bucket. Can't buy a bucket. Mamu is a little too easy to scheme against right now. He can't get out there. Jakob Poeltl had possibly his worst game of the season too. Jakob Poeltl looked so bad out there, dude. The fact that you are paying this guy for the next 5 years is truly egregious and insane. He had one of the worst games of his life. Period. Not year, life. Period. He was awful. So, yeah, a lot of bad things to say here. You know, the Knicks were without Deuce McBride. They were not fully healthy. They're not a great road team. They're not a great road team. And there was a chance, you know, I walked into this game all week. I have thought the Raptors would lose this game with no understanding that Jacoby, you know, would be playing well, no understanding that Battle would be out, no understanding that RJ wouldn't be healthy. I just like, you know what? The Knicks are going to win this game. They're the older team. They're the more experienced team. This is a big moment for a young team on at home. You know, it's almost like I feel like on the road, this might have been a little less pressure, but at home with the Scotiabank crowd, very ruckus crowd, the national anthems, you could feel that pressure. It was not quite a playoff environment, but it's about as close as you're going to get before you get the real thing. And in that moment, they looked like one of the youngest teams in the league, which they are, right? Raw Athletics Canada. The games are rigged periods. Got Scottie for 3 fouls early. Bull. Okay, listen. First of all, I don't think the games are rigged. Number two, please stop with the caps lock. I beg of you, for the love of God, please stop caps locking or you will be banned. Okay? If you cannot type like a big boy, please send super chats if you need everybody to see what you got to say. Okay, please, for the love of God. I think we're all a little bit on edge right now. This was not a fun game for anybody to watch, but if you're just going to caps lock like a crazy person, you're going to get banned. Okay, chill out. So, Brandon Ingram, he did show up in a really major way from a shot making perspective, and I actually really liked BI's defense as well tonight. I think Brandon Ingram was everything you could have hoped for in a situation like this. He was 11 for 18. He didn't overforce it. Yes, he did pick up a whole bunch of turnovers. Yes, he totally did, you know, siphon the offense into Ingram ball. But honestly, do you blame him? On a night like tonight, where nobody can finish a single shot, where you are just not making shots, your threes are not going in. Take a look at the team stats tonight. You shoot 29% from three on 11 for 38. 11 for 38. When's the last time the Raptors shot 38 threes? They just could not beat the defense at all. They were settling for threes, and it was a lot of threes from guys you don't necessarily want taking threes, and then the ones you want taking threes, they couldn't get threes. So this is, you know, first of all, credit to the New York Knicks. They played a really decent game, and Jalen Brunson had 35. He had 20 points in the first quarter, 15 points the rest of the way. The Raptors' idea to start Jamal Shed on Grady Dick, on uh, Jalen Brunson was a mistake, in my opinion. Here's a lineup I would have gone with. I wouldn't have started Shed because starting Shed screwed up your entire second unit, and he has no real rhythm with that first unit at all. Not to mention Ochai Agbaji. He didn't really have a great rhythm tonight either. And so, you know, he's kind of coming back from a couple games off. He had a really good game last game. I understand the theory of not starting Jacoby, but Jacoby has rhythm with that starting lineup. And I think starting Scottie at point would have given you a better chance to win. But Darko's reluctance to start Scottie at point, unless it is the absolute last thing in the world he has to do, is probably something he has to look at. And it's funny because eventually when Chucky Hepburn couldn't cut it, he had to go to Scottie at point. Now, playing Scottie with like absolutely terrible lineups where Grady cannot score, I don't think Grady should have gotten a minute in this game. Based on how he's been playing, he probably shouldn't have, right? You do compete on the offensive glass. You do hustle. You do get, you do get your nearly 30 assists, which is hard to do when you only make 39 shots in this game and you can't hit threes. You got some really good threes tonight. You employed Haka Mitchell, and they end up shooting 61% from the free throw line, but that's very disingenuous. You got to make your free throws, right? They didn't play Haka anybody on your side. And you guys just, we just had people missing free throws. Ingram misses 2. Scottie doesn't get a single free throw tonight. And that 3 for 18 is an almost identical spread to his last identical splits to his last playoff game, which was the game where he was super injured against the Philadelphia 76ers in his rookie season. Now, look, we have seen Scottie show up really big. Let's not ignore the fact that he was one of the rare Raptors that actually did bring it in the Raptors play-in game. I don't think that this game needs to be some career-defining moment for Scottie Barnes. Let's not make it into something that it's not. He had a really bad game. Players have bad games. I watched Shea have bad games last year. I watched Michael Jordan have bad games. Players have bad games. It sucks for Scottie having a bad game in this moment because you are rising. You are getting a lot of press. You just got named, defensive player of the month for the Eastern Conference. You get your trophy, and then you come out and you play terrible defense. You play terrible defense, awful defense. Now, no game this year has exposed the Raptors' need for a backup center more than this game specifically. You had to run Scottie at point because you didn't have a viable backup point guard because you're wasting roster spots on two ways that aren't NBA ready and Garrett Temple and a blank roster spot. If you're going to be a competitive team, if you want these moments to matter, I think the team needs an investment from the front office in a veteran center who can actually box out. Okay. And there are many available. There are many available. They may not be perfect. They may not be ideal. But man, if I have to watch Scottie Barnes boxing out Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns for 8 seconds straight to box them out, clear them out, hold them out, using his quote unquote Ninja Turtle strength, shout outs to Jaylen Brown, and all of that to just have Josh Hart fly in past Grady Dick to just grab an offensive rebound anyway, it was very disheartening. This game sucked. Okay. Ochai Agbaji ends up with 3 points in 26 minutes. Trade him fast. Okay. This is not it for him. Okay. He had some decent moments defensively, but overall, just wasn't a great game from him. Jakob Poeltl, 10 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 steals. Was it really the worst game ever? I mean, honestly, he just was bad. Like, they were much better with Colin Murray-Boyles and Sajid Mamukelashvili on the court. And at some point, it just almost looked like he was unplayable. But the question really does beg itself, right? If he's unplayable against Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns, then who the fuck is he playable against? Because he's not playable against Quentin Post, and he's not going to be playable against Chet Holmgren. So who is he playable against? Now, when Jakob Poeltl has gone right, the Raptors have been good. When he doesn't look right defensively, they are not good. Brandon Ingram, as previously mentioned, only 3 turnovers tonight, 6 assists, 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio is great. And in a team where in a game where you get blown out by 16 points, he was only a -4. And Jamal Shead in his 34 minutes, he was also only a -4. So starters for starters, you almost matched it because Jalen Brunson was a +4 and Jamal Shead was a -4. OG Anunoby was a +6. It was really that Karl-Anthony Towns, Josh Hart, when they were playing their starters against your bench lineups, that's where you really lost the game. Chucky Hepburn in his 8 minutes and Grady Dick in his 8 minutes, they were combined -23. That lineup with Hepburn, Barnes, Grady Dick was absolutely laughably bad. It was terrible. Like, nothing was working. On one side, Grady Dick just chokes the ball up. On the other side, he gets absolutely obliterated by Jordan Clarkson. It was just like, it's bad because Jordan Clarkson's the minimum guy at this point. Okay. And Grady Dick's a lottery pick and he's in his 3rd year. And if at this point I cannot play my lottery pick from 2 years ago in his 3rd year, and he is still unable to finish layups, unable to make threes, I mean, my God, we are very, very, very close with Grady Dick to approaching Jet Howard, Kobe Buffkin territory, Jordan Hawkins territory. And I got news for you. The average 13th overall pick does not work out. The average 13th overall pick is not good. Okay. But when Grady was drafted, we were all thinking, hey, man, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, these guys were 13th overall picks. Kobe Bryant, he was the 13th overall pick. Grady's not going to get there, but maybe he can be really good. And right now, Grady looks like he is like the 5th best wing on this team. And that is a really, really bad outcome. And that sucks because ideally, if you were ever to look at upgrading that spot, you were hoping, if you were thinking of moving off of RJ Barrett, although I feel very strongly that the people who believe that RJ Barrett is the difference between this game being a win or a loss or whatever, I got news for you, man. I went back and I watched a lot of the games from earlier this season, and I got to tell you, this team has played a lot of really, 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 really bad basketball. Many, many quarters where what happened in today's second quarter was very evident, where they scored 13 points in today's second quarter. 13 points. Just take a look at that right there. Okay. Right there. You got outscored 34-13. You lost that quarter. You won the first quarter. You won the third quarter. You narrowly lost the fourth quarter. You take out that second quarter, this is not a blowout game. This is a close game. Your defense was not great, and yet somehow you were still able to do some stuff against them to stop them. You played physical. You got out in transition. You didn't convert. Couldn't convert layups. Couldn't convert fast break opportunities. Just got hacked. Do I think the referees maybe gave a little bit of an edge to the New York Knicks? Yes, they did give an edge to the New York Knicks. Scottie complained for fouls like all night long. He never got one. You can't breathe on Jalen Brunson. Boom, he's got a foul. I understand that. But if you're Scottie Barnes, this is a learning lesson too. You got to earn that respect from referees by being tough, by playing through it. And unfortunately, when you got really big muscles and you're really strong, they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. They don't give Giannis the benefit of the doubt. They didn't give Shaquille O'Neal the benefit of the doubt. You just have to play through it. And multiple times tonight, Scottie took an elbow to the face. One time he took a punch to the face inadvertently by OG Anunoby and just fell right to the floor. No foul. No foul. No foul called. And the first one, they waited for him to go all the way down, and then they called a foul. Ironically, Scottie gets fouled on a drive where they hack at his arm, Carlton Towns. The ball goes out of bounds, apparently off Scottie, or they call for a jump ball. The Knicks challenge, and oops, they find out that it was a foul on Scottie. Scottie gets fouled a lot, like a lot, and he doesn't get the calls. But tonight, the spacing was just atrocious. The Knicks played it very, very heavily into Scottie Barnes, okay? Like, to the people who actually watch this game, if you use your critical thinking, they put OG Anunoby with a soft double on Scottie on every post up. Scottie had no idea what to do with that. Now, OG knows all of Scottie's tricks. He's worked with him. He's seen him in the gym. He knows him up close. They obviously scouted this well. They did not send a lot of help to Ingram. They allowed once again, they allowed Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby to kind of go one-on-one with Ingram. They didn't care. They even allowed Hart to go one-on-one with Ingram. They didn't care. And Ingram torched them. And that's probably what was needed. But I think they've kind of figured out at this point that if Ingram goes one-on-one, and Ingram had a horrible game the last time against the Knicks, so he really redeemed himself here. But if you remember that game in New York, Ingram was awful. He got shut down by Mikal Bridges. Well, tonight, Scottie Barnes got shut down by Bridges, Hart, Towns, and literally everyone. He got stuffed at the rim by Towns. He got stripped. He got poked. He got bumped off his spot. Just a really, really, really tough outcome. But honestly, this game points to the fact that you need a backup center, you need spacing, you need secondary creation. And perhaps it does point to the fact that, yes, there are times where the offense does flow better with Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett on the bench. There are times where for a 6-minute stretch, you can get away with that. But the law of diminishing returns says when you play Grady Dick and Chucky Hepburn and Jamal Shed, like all these players all together, all at once, super young, all in a really high leverage game, Ochai Agbaji, Jacoby Walter, who had a decent game. These are not players that are legitimately better than Jordan Clarkson right now. These are not players who are legitimately better than Josh Hart. They beat you every which way up and down that roster. They have more talent. They are bigger. They are stronger. They're better shooters across the board. How many times did Josh Hart get open for three tonight? He hit 4 threes tonight. 4 threes. I don't think they guarded him once. He hits his threes now, y'all. And a lot of that was on Scottie Barnes, but a lot of that was just weak side rotations, and Josh Hart gets the ball, and he's 25 feet away from the next closest defender. It's bad. Okay, let's take a look at some of the film session, and we will get to the call-in show. If there are no call-ins, we will end this early because you know what? There's no need to beat a dead horse. The Toronto Raptors have a very healthy amount of time off. between this game and the next game, and I believe they'll be playing Monday. Now, I was talking my shit. Okay, I said quickly in, quickly out, shed in. Okay, we're about to see something. I was very, very excited. You know, you get hype. You haven't seen a meaningful game in Toronto in like 3.5 years. Let's be real. Tampa playing DeRozan's daughter, playoffs against Embiid. When's the last time we've seen an actually meaningful game that had something on the line? Haven't seen one in a while. So I was excited, man. I was rooting for my team. This wasn't me, the analyst. This wasn't me, like the hedge fund manager. This wasn't me, the let's call it like Penstradamus. This was not Penstradamus. This was just a hyped Raptor fan praying for the best. And I said, first points in Raptors Cup history. Who else? If only Scottie Barnes could have continued doing this shit all night. Here, look at the difficulty of this drive, right? Now, why is this drive so difficult? Well, partially because Ochai Agbaji is shooting 8%, 9% from three. And they are happy to ignore him all day. This drive is hard. But hey, Scottie gets there and no problems, right? So Ingram likes to score, Scottie likes to pass. Now, this is an absolutely crazy shot from Brandon Ingram here. And this is hard. OG Anunoby guarding him, Jakob Poeltl flashing down the middle, behind. But here, look at Jalen Brunson. Still a decent team defender, not a good one-on-one defender by any means. OG puts a hand up. That's great defense. That's great defense. It's just better offense. It's better offense, right? And here, this is great offense. I love this. So this is a rare moment of hope. The Raptors were up, believe it or not, after this first quarter, 39-35. The Raptors were up, and this is how they built that lead. Here, Josh Hart, a little too high there. Ochai Agbaji, his only bucket of the night, and it's a reverse layup past Karl-Anthony Towns, who is really, really poor in that situation. So, it looked okay for a bit. Let's be real. It looked okay. A couple Ingram turnovers, a Barnes turnover, a little live ball, and you're just like, okay, they're working through the kinks. It's going to be fine, right? JLA Media saying Derek Queen was a fumble. His bag at 19 is dumb. He is not 19. He is almost 21 for starters. And secondly, it kind of looks like we will be very, very lucky if Colin Murray-Boyles ever reaches the type of game that Derek Queen had last night in his entire life. It is not easy to be 20 years old and to put up a triple-double against the San Antonio Spurs, right? Like, Derek Queen is he is stupid levels of talented. Everyone knew he was talented. What's not for sure is how is he going to take his health and conditioning and whatever, and the Raptors like to bat on these guys who take care of their bodies. They were not going to bring in Derek Queen because I guess they didn't like his motor. Maybe that's why they didn't like Kalal Ware as much. So anyways, here, nice little pass, baseline inbounds play here on, Jamal Shed just kind of gets it back. Jamal Shed inbounds, passes to Brandon Ingram, and then catches the defense napping there. And I said, you know how hard this is to do to Josh Hart? Josh Hart's probably one of the best wing rebounders I've seen in my entire life. And here, Jamal Shed, one of his 7 attempts from three. They don't even get a hand up, right? They are not concerned with Jamal Shed shooting threes. And here, Scottie Barnes just wrestles this ball, and Mitchell Robinson knocks it out of bounds. So Scottie getting on the glass buys you an extra possession. Good stuff. I said, this team right now, and teary-eyed emoji because I was like, oh my God, this team is playing so well. It's not a game where they just came out and laid an egg. No, the Knicks earned this win. Here, this was very rare. A paint touch for Scottie Barnes is good. And here, swing opposite corner, an immediate connective pass. Jalen Brunson falls asleep. Jordan Clarkson is late, and boom. These types of gaps did not open up enough for the Raptors. And I think, if anything, this game exposes at least some part of why teams go more towards isolation in the playoffs. Because ball movement is hard when the gaps shrink, right? when all of your gaps are super tight and everybody's willing to recover, and it's not just some regular regular season game, you're going to have to go back to shot making. My man better than your man, right? And tonight, you were gonna what were you gonna do? You were gonna pray that your entire roster, which is full of a lot of really weak defenders, frankly, and a lot of compromised defenders at this point, you were praying that that roster was going to be able to match defense for defense against Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, all those guys. And then on top of that, you thought that Ingram was going to outduel Jalen Brunson. This is not the recipe to success. The Raptors had a very narrow path to victory today. I would say the Knicks could have beat you about 18 different ways. The Raptors could have won only about 2 ways. So that's really that's the difference between these two teams right now. And the Raptors had to run, they had to move the ball, and they had to hit their shots. And if their shot was going to go in, they weren't going to win this game. But that's why we play a playoff series and not one game elimination, because typically in a playoff series, the shooting averages balance out. So a really tough night for Scottie Barnes tonight might have balanced out if there was a game 2. And then we're not talking about the rough game 1. Right now, unfortunately, this is a game that's going to have to sit with him until we get to the playoffs, because that's going to be the next super high leverage game. But overall, this was a really good offensive possession. Just a quick swing to Brandon Ingram. And this is the type of in rhythm shot we want him to hit. Perfect. I said shed to CMB to Jacoby. Wonderful. So here, Jamal Shed sends it to CMB. He is once again very apprehensive about going up against length right now. So he swings to the opposite corner. And Jacoby Walter, your 19th overall pick from last year, proves perhaps definitively he is the player to invest in between him and Grady. Now here, I said onions, baby, onions. Now this took guts, man. This took a lot of guts, and they say no guts, no glory, right? So here, CMB passes to Jamal Shed. Shed mishandles it, almost goes out of bounds. And then he ends up in a situation where Gershon Yabusele is back. Ingram is standing here, right? Now, it's probably not the greatest thing in the world for 2 players to basically be easily able to be guarded by 1 player. So at this point, you're probably looking at a situation where Ingram should space to the corner. But I understand. Give Jamal Shed the 3, and hey, worst case scenario, we got 2 guys back for an offensive rebound. And Jamal Shed, instead of forcing a drive over the larger Yabusele, he just decides to hit the 3. I think that takes courage, man. I do, especially because he's not a great shooter, and for him to do that, like, pressure. I said Ingram doing megastar shit. Forget the turnovers for a second. 14 points, efficient, aggressive. This is tough. What he's doing here is tough. Okay, so you cross up Jordan Clarkson. Not that hard to do. But this finish through OG Anunoby, very hard to do. And once again, like for a few weeks there, it felt like he didn't have any lift, any burst, whatever. But man, he looked very twitchy and very bursty tonight. So I would be like very curious to hear what people have to say about Brandon Ingram tonight, because I felt very strongly that he would not be as bad as he's been for the last few weeks, and he was good. He was really good tonight. Here, Ingram, just again, this is such a tough shot. This is such a hard shot. Like, it is ridiculous how hard that shot is. It's an unstoppable shot. Like, no defense in the world can stop that shot when it goes in. Now, obviously, it doesn't go in often enough for it to be your bread and butter. But in the last second of a shot clock, is there anybody other than Kawhi Leonard and Vince Carter in Raptors history that you would rather have taking the shot with like 2 seconds on the clock? It's crazy. I said Scottie is having a woefully mediocre start to this game. The congested lanes and tight spacing is really exposing the holes in his half-court creation abilities. And it's true, right? Like the dribble package, all the weaknesses in Scottie's game, from the insecure shooting. Granted, he's shooting 40% from 3, but we all know he's not a 40% three-point shooter, right? Like, teams go under on his screen, so they dare him to shoot, so he shoots. But 40% from 3 is not a sustainable mark for Scottie. I think he's more of a let's hope he gets to about 34-35% on his career type of guy. And unless something really major happens, and if he's a Collier, Aaron Gordon, there's guys who train super hard for one off season and then become great shooters. Maybe Scottie will have that type of shooting jump at some point. But right now, when I watch his shooting mechanics, when I watch his load, when I watch, the consistency on his shot, I'm just like, you know what? This is a shot that is just begging. It's kind of like the RJ shot, right? It's begging for a 2-week cold stretch. I say the Raptors are playing like a team that has no faith in victory. Grab rebounds, push, drive. OG, Bridges, Robinson, and Hart are a very formidable defensive front line. Have to attack it. Ingram had it going early. Scottie has been cringe levels of horrible offensively, and I meant it. Now, look, this was a broken play. Completely broken play here. Brunson just laughably bad on defense at times, right? Like when he's exposed and one-on-one in space, like he is bad. And that's why I think, a team like Detroit or Orlando even has a chance at beating this team in the playoffs because they do such stupid things. Now here, what was stopping Scottie Barnes from doing this all game? Honestly, I'm being a little bit disingenuous here. They didn't give him this look all game. They didn't just allow him to do this one-on-one against Brunson here, even with Hart sort of digging down, trying not to foul. The shot is contested eventually by OG Anunoby. This is an insanely hard shot, but this shot is hard because look at how many defenders there are. Teams are just able to abandon so easily. They're able to abandon the Raptors shooters. But if you had a Duncan Robinson, a Malik Beasley, a Tim Hardaway Jr., if you had those types of marksmen on the court, a Cam Johnson, you wouldn't be able to do this to Scottie. You wouldn't be able to put 3 defenders on him like this. And here, what's the best thing Scottie can do? He can swing it out to Ochai and pray he doesn't brick it. He can swing it back to, Ingram. It's not a lot of options. And I just feel like people don't have a full appreciation for just how difficult this offense is to score in for a player who sometimes lacks, right? Lacks in terms of, just again, creation ability, lacks in departments of really just so many departments that Scottie lacks in offensively in terms of half court creation. Now, this shot here, now Ingram is definitely trying. But if you're Mamu, you get boxed out and CMB, Jacoby miscommunicate this, and Mitchell Robinson gets away with getting his own offensive rebound off of his very obvious miss. And then it gets passed out to Jalen Brunson for a 3. So it's like 3 points you just lose. And I'm not even saying you're like right there. Like let's not kid ourselves. But this is the end of the third quarter and it's a 15-point game. So if you get this rebound, secure the rebound, go down and hit a 3, what is it? It's a 4 possession game. It's a 12-point game. So you're right there. And it just didn't feel like the Raptors knew that all night. It just looked like they had no real faith in what they were doing. Here, once again, it is Brunson that you can attack. It's Brunson and Clarkson that you can attack. And here, Jacoby makes a really tough shot over Mitchell Robinson. Tough as hell. I said, this is not basketball. This play is egregious. Close your eyes. If you have a sensitivity to terrible basketball, close your eyes. Because this is bad. Now, great defense by CMB. Good defense help side by Scottie Barnes. CMB blocks the shot. It was kind of like a double stuff there. Now, look at Josh Hart dig into Grady's handle here. Apply a little bit of force, and Grady just goes flying. Look at where Grady ends up. Now, come on, man. Look at where you get hit. You got to be able to absorb this much contact. He's not it's important to realize when you take contact going the same direction that you're going into, it shouldn't put you off tilt. You could take contact going in an opposite direction and it could throw you completely off tilt, but this should just make you go faster. Unfortunately, I don't know if this is like Grady trying to bait the call or Hart just throwing him off his dribble a little bit. I would like to see a different angle on this, but here Grady just loses the ball completely. Now, good job, Jakob Poeltl, getting back, forcing the miss here. But right here, Jakob Poeltl, Scottie Barnes is wide open. Just pass him the ball. Now you're going downhill. Scottie is continuing to go, thinking maybe he's about to throw an alley-oop, which would be the right decision here. Throw an alley-oop. Or wait for a second and then throw the alley-oop. Or fake the pass and then throw the alley-oop. But here, Jakob Poeltl just throws it to Colin Murray Boyles and doesn't even throw it to Colin Murray Boyles, and it results in another transition opportunity. This is just like the Grady Dick thing. This is just like, it was just a lack of focus. I said Knicks challenge backfires is the play I talked about earlier, where the New York Knicks foul Scottie Barnes on that play. As you can see, clear as day, reaches on his arm. Teams do this a lot. He gets fouled. Horrible acting job by Scottie Barnes. Obviously, this is not, but here you see the foul. Boom. Scrapes down on the arm. This happens to Scottie very often. He can't gather it and he goes up. Now, before everybody crashes out, please understand Cade Cunningham shot 18% from 3 in the playoffs last year. Cold shooting stretches can happen. They can happen, okay? This is something that we like to say. You need a lot more of a sample size than a single NBA Cup game to be writing the obituary on Scottie Barnes' career and crashing out and saying like, "Oh, we've seen a terrible Scottie game." Nobody's denying this is a terrible Scottie game, but you did see a good Jacoby game. You did see a decent Jamal Shed game. You did see a decent compete level from some of your young guys. You did work extremely hard to get here. It is probably a good thing to mention that all of the young guys on your roster, including all of the old guys on your roster, are going to get about an $84,000 payout for even getting to this point of the NBA Cup. Unfortunately, they will be watching the rest of the NBA Cup from home. There's a consolation game, I believe, for the loser of these games. So I guess we would face Miami. Is that accurate? We face Miami for the unofficial third place in the East. And then Orlando will face New York. So that's kind of where we're at. Cade's shot mechanics are good, though. They're not really good. They're just smoother because his arms aren't anywhere near as long. But he is shooting 29% from 3 this year as well. So before you go and be like, Cade's shot mechanics are so great. Well, if they're so great, why is he shooting 29% from 3? Anyways, I think Scottie needs to look at this game as a learning experience and move forward. Okay. AJ26er said NBA officiating equals horrendous versus Canada since inception. Bring in AI refs. Whew. Get AD and Gafford on this team right now. Cade shoots from the chest. I'm glad you know that. It makes me really happy that our community actually understands this stuff. Let's get to some super chats here. Scottie got to be way more aggressive. Way too passive. I generally agree with you. Yes. And it's not about taking more shots. He took 18 shots tonight. It's perfectly fine. Whatever. Made 6 of them. If he makes 8, is this a decent game? If he makes 9, is this a decent game? 6 for 18 is a 33% shooting game. It's certainly not efficient. It's not great. I don't think I was most disappointed in Scottie's offense tonight. I was most disappointed in his lack of assertion offensively and his lack of attention to detail defensively. Now, for most of the year, I've seen Scottie Barnes be one of the best 7-8 defenders in the NBA, and I've been very much, crying from the mountaintops. Like, man, teams have to watch, Scottie Barnes play defense. Analysts have to watch Scottie Barnes play defense. He's so awesome defensively. He cleans up everything. And people ask me, like, what does Scottie do on defense? This is what he does on defense. And tonight, he did almost none of that stuff tonight. Didn't communicate on pick and rolls. Was lazy getting back in transition. Gave up rebounds that were 2 inches away from his face. 2 inches away from his face. Couldn't get the rebound. Didn't want to pick up the rebound. This was a disappointing game from a motor perspective with Scottie Barnes. This game reminded me of certain games in his second year. Now, I have no idea what went wrong for Scottie today, but I do know the Raptors as a whole cannot play this style of basketball. They have veered far away from how they were playing basketball last year and how they were playing basketball to start this year, right? They were playing basketball with a purpose to move the ball and attack advantages out of that creation. Egalitarian basketball means you don't prescript who gets shots. Unfortunately, tonight, the Raptors played that style of basketball and then got completely obliterated and then just gave up on it. Now, it goes back to the EV formula, right? If I flip a coin, heads, 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 5 times, that's like make or miss, right? If you take a really good shot in the NBA, it should generate you about 1.07, 1.9 points, 1.11, 1.2 if you're really lucky. This is the range you should be in for good shots. Now, obviously, Hail Marys from half court, they usually net you like 0.2 points. End of clock fadeaways from underneath the basket, they usually net you really low percentages. So the Raptors opted for a lot of really, really low EV possessions at the expense of very high EV possessions because the high EV possessions weren't going in. Because Grady couldn't make shots, Jamison Battle wasn't out there, and the Knicks executed very well. They allowed your worst shooters to get open, and then they dared them to shoot, and they couldn't make them pay. They try to attack the zone with shooting, and AJ Lawson is not a great shooter. Ochai Agbaji right now is not a great shooter. Elijah Martin is not a great shooter. Chucky Hepburn is not a great shooter. Jamal Shedd is not a great shooter. Scottie Barnes is not a great shooter. Jakob Poeltl is not a great shooter. And frankly, Colin Murray-Bowles is not a great shooter. There is a compounding, cascading effect of having this many non-shooters on the court, which is why Immanuel Quickley is on this team and why he is essential to most winning lineups for the Raptors. Again, you might be able to get away with 10, 12 minutes of negative spacing with Scottie and Shedd lineups or even Chucky Hepburn to change of pace. But man, we saw a lot of really atrociously spaced lineups tonight, and I don't think that we can keep doing that again. Recruiter Dude said, we were so overmatched. I'm astonished, actually. At no point after the first quarter were we ever threatening to get the score to single digits. This might end up being a very long season. I don't think you need to read too much into this, right? Now, I understand it's very disappointing, and this game was built up as something that was a big test for the Raptors. Failing a test does not mean you need to repeat the grade. Failing a test does not mean you're destined to be, not make university. It's just a test. It's a single test. So we need to take that approach of, hey, man, people did not expect the Raptors to be here. Their preseason odds to win the NBA Cup were like 116 to 1, and they were just one of the last 8 teams to get eliminated. Last 8. Go look at the teams that have made the NBA Cup in the inaugural season. They're not bad teams for the most part. It's not like the Brooklyn Nets and the Washington Wizards making the NBA Cup. No, teams fight for this. Teams, generally speaking, fight for this. We saw Indiana make the NBA Cup Finals. We saw OKC make the NBA Cup Finals. This is a little mini, sometimes fluky preview, if you will, of the playoffs. It's a good idea of what increased intensity, increased focus, increased pressure, stakes, and frankly, an increased scout can do for you. I hope that the Raptors can use what happened today over the next 10 days and spiritually reset. Now, it could have been worse. As I said, it could have been worse. Scottie could have had an even worse game somehow. Ingram could have looked shell-shocked again versus New York, like the first time. You could have just laid an egg in the second half and not fought back in that third quarter where the Raptors did fight back. The Raptors held the Knicks without a field goal for almost 6 minutes. The defense was competing really hard. There was no communication. There was no trust. It was just all haphazard doubles and abandoning corners, reaching on drives that were already complete. There's no need for it. Grady Dick, was depressingly bad tonight. Really, really bad. Jakob Poeltl was really confusing me a lot. CMB caught the ball underneath the basket at least 6 times in this game. He never, ever went up straight unless he was wide open. Wide open. If he was wide open, like not a defender within 10 feet of him, he was going up and attacking it. But if there was even one defender in his vicinity, and I'm talking within 8 feet of him, he was not dunking it. He was looking around, trying to throw up crafty, finishes around the rim. I think this is terrible. I think it's obviously terrible because this is obviously a tall man sport. And you drafted an undersized power forward, small forward hybrid on the hopes that he can become a small forward. But CMB has to be aggressive. He has to be aggressive. You can't be worrying about getting your shot blocked. That's how you get your shot blocked, right? Because you think about it too much. You need to just go and go up with it. I mean, we smoked so many layups tonight. It is actually depressing. Hang on one second. Let me pull this up. Let me look at the shot chart here. This is just like it feels unreal to me how many times tonight we found ourselves with a wide open or lightly contested drive to the basket and we just couldn't make it work. Just couldn't make it work. Ingram gets blocked. Pirtle misses a 3-foot hook shot. Dude, Jakob Pirtle probably missed the most open floater in NBA history tonight, or one of the most open floaters in NBA history. It was so egregiously bad. Jamal Shed found him perfectly wide open. Ingram misses a 8-foot shot. Scottie Barnes misses a driving floating jump shot, whatever that is. Scottie Barnes makes a 24-foot three-pointer, his only one uh, in the corner in the fourth quarter. Colin Murray Boyles makes a 1-foot dunk from Jamal Shed. I mean, again, when he was wide open, yes, he had no problem hitting, going up for dunk when he's wide open. So, look, the team's going to get stronger. It's going to get bigger. It's going to hopefully make some trades. But yeah, we might need to pump the brakes on Scottie's superstardom talk right now. Not that I don't think he's a really impactful player on an average night. I think Scottie's amazing. I think what we need to pump the brakes on is just understanding like how far he still has to go to navigate tight quarters against a really good set defense. Right. Again, the Knicks have the personnel to bother Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram. They're one of the rare teams. They, Orlando, and maybe what's the other team? Feels like just those two teams. Those two teams have like the length on the perimeter to bother you. And I mean, look, they paid everything to get OG and Mikal Bridges there. Mikal Bridges, they're paying close to $40 million a year. OG is north of 40. They gave up a pick and two young assets for OG. They gave up 5 picks and swaps and whatever for Mikal Bridges. And tonight, what you could have really used, probably a Desmond Bain or an Immanuel Quickley who doesn't stranglehold the offense. You could have used both those things tonight. Um, Double M Productions, 1955 says, Bobby got to make some moves, man, because watching Jakob and Grady is so aggravating, man. Yeah. I still believe Jakob Pertl is not right because I genuinely feel like I've never seen him play such bad basketball, but I'm also reminded he is north of 30 years old, and I've watched players fall off after 30 aggressively. Antonio Davis was not the same player after 30, 31. No, he was not. So the Raptors at some point are gonna have to stop signing these guys to like super mega long deals. Now, I didn't get a ton of sleep last night. As some of you know, playback has ended. Um, and we were supposed to be on playback tonight, and then at 8:30 it got canceled. I don't get it. Grady has to be our worst draft pick. Oh, no, he's not our worst draft pick, man. Rafael Larujo, the Serbian guy. I mean, we've picked a lot of Alexander and in terms of the expected value of the 13th pick relative to Grady, I could argue, even though I really liked him, Andrea Bargnani was probably a worse pick than Grady Dick. But hey, man, Andrea certainly wouldn't be as sorry as some of the players who played tonight were, man. It's really, really pathetic to see. Grady makes some foolish mistakes on defense. Oh, yeah. Christian Coloco, the worst draft pick? No, the worst draft pick can never be a second round draft pick, man. Again, go back to the expected value of a pick. The higher the pick, the higher the expected value. So the higher the pick, the more likely it is that that's the one you really made a mistake on. I think the 12th playback is done. What does that mean? What does that mean? I have no idea. Like it sucks because we were supposed to do 2 Raptor games and then playback just goes out of business. So it was like fuck. Bobby can become something else if he makes the moves, fix Masai's mistakes. Dude, hold up. We are not going to do that thing where we just assume that Bobby Webster's about to clean up Masai's mistakes. No, they were in it together. They were in it together. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the one who inked that Jakob Pertl extension. Barnes to Scotty said, Rob, what would an AD package look like from your perspective? It's a good question. Grady, CMB, RJ, Jakob Pertl, Picks, something like that. Ochai, I don't know. Take back PJ Washington. Grady was a non-defender pick. Yeah, I was really shocked by it. If you remember, my draft day reaction was not great, but I warmed up to him. Right now, he just doesn't feel like he has a lot of confidence in himself, and that's not really something I know. I don't know if you could have seen that coming. And again, this is very, very, very stupid, analysis on my end. This is totally hear it from one ear and push it out the other. When I watched his social media feed this offseason, because I do follow him on social, I follow most of the Raptors on social. And when I was watching him on social media, like I gotta tell you, it just felt like this guy's just happy to be in the NBA. That's what it felt like to me. Now, I'm not saying that that's true. I'm sure he works hard from all the accounts of what I heard from like Scottie. It's like, oh well, he's always in the gym, he's working hard, he's coming in, he's doing his defensive drills, he's doing this, he's doing that. But man, like Grady is playing very tight right now. Like he is playing extremely shy, non-physical, and stupid. It's a really bad place to be as a basketball player, and I feel for him because I feel like people see him and they expect him to be something, and he's not that thing right now. He is a fluid athlete, yes. He is, in theory, a playmaker, yes, but he doesn't have like that physicality that you need to be a good player in the NBA. He doesn't have it, man. He doesn't have it at all. Jacoby has it though. See, Jacoby may not be like as good a shooter, and some people might think he's not as good a passer and he's not as big. But man, he actually like likes physicality. He likes it. Like he genuinely seems to appreciate when guys bump him. It's pretty cool for him. I trust players to develop who like physicality. Jamal Shed likes the physicality too. CMB, for the most part, likes physicality, which is why I was somewhat shocked that every single time he was close to the basket and he had a chance to go up for a dunk, he was looking over his shoulder like, like a bobblehead. Uh, Jack saying Jacoby needs to get stronger, though. No one is denying that, but name a 20-year-old in the NBA who doesn't need to get stronger. Medved Ted said Grady needs to get his headspace right. I agree. I agree. I think Grady is like he is a player who really he goes through his ebbs and flows with confidence. We saw it in his first year, his rookie season, and then something goes right. So right now, I feel like he's pressing too much. I've been there. I've seen players do it myself. Like he is just trying to make a home run play. Like I remember one time I had a coach, and I had a similar problem. One time I got into the game and I was very tense, right? I picked up 2 quick fouls and had a turnover. So the next game, like when I got back into the game, my coach was like, "Okay, the first thing I want you to do is hit a 4-pointer." And I looked at him like he was crazy, and I said, "What? A 4-pointer?" And he said, "Yeah, go out there and hit a 4-pointer." And I was just continuing to be confused. I'm waiting for this on the sideline to get into the game. As I'm going up to the scores table, I'm like looking over, I'm like, he's like, what's he talking about? And then I just went into the game. I was confused as fuck. And I had a pretty good stint. And I came back and I was like, sorry, I don't know what the fuck a 4-pointer is. What's a 4-pointer? You want me to get fouled on a 3? And he said, you can't hit a 4-pointer. That's the point. His point was, you're not going to get 4 points or 5 points or 8 points on one play when you go in. So don't play with that pressure, right? Be honest. Who's better, Jakob or Luke Cornett? I've been saying this, Luke Cornett. I said it last season, Luke Cornett. So, Hotline Bling is a good song. Said you came off the bench. In that game, I was checking back in, and I was having a very, very terrible first half. And yeah, so basically, my coach told me, he's like, "All right, well, first thing I need you to do is go out there and score a 4-pointer, score 4 points, score a 4-pointer, hit a 4-pointer." I don't remember what the verbiage was. Um, Shout outs to Greg, but like, yeah, I mean, it kind of makes you think. Like when you come into the game, you want to make an impact. You obviously want to be a good player. You want to make your coach happy. You want to execute the game plan. You want to win games. You're thinking about too much, right? And it's just like control the controllables, man. Like you go out there and say, I'm gonna fight over every single screen. Like this is good advice for like life, but also basketball. Like you can't control every single element. When you try to control things, you go crazy. Like truly crazy. Control what you can control. So, like for instance, you go to a meeting at work. No, forget a work meeting. You go to a job interview. When you go to a job interview, a lot of people are like, if you ask someone prior to a job interview, what are you trying to accomplish in this job interview? The people who don't get jobs consistently in job interviews will say, "Oh, I'm trying to make a good impression and I'm trying to, get the job." And it's like, well, that's not in your actual control. Making a good impression is a two-way street. You can do all the right things and they could still hate you. You know what I mean? They could have a bias against you for some reason or whatever. No. That's never going to work. So, one of the most talented actors that I know, he told me his hack for nailing casting. He gets cast in everything. He's like 285 credits on IMDb. The dude is very, very busy. I'm not saying he's great, but he is extremely good at getting booked, which for a working actor is amazing and definitely your goal. So he told me once, like, my secret is I check mark 3 things every single time I go in for an audition. Step 1, I must show up 15 minutes before my scheduled call time. That's step 1. If I've done that, I'm already 1 for 3. Step 2, I make eye contact with everyone in the room. I walk in, and if allowed, I shake everyone's hands and say, "Nice to meet you, nice to meet you, nice to meet you." Step 3, I sleep the night before and I remember the lines. I do my research and I remember every line. That's it. Those are the 3 things. And that is what a successful audition looks like for me. I don't care if I get if I get the part or I don't get the part. I don't care if they like me, if they don't like me. I don't care about any of that. I don't care if I fumble over, if I can't take direction well, if I can't adjust the notes well. That doesn't matter. What matters is that I get there 15 minutes early, I sleep the night before, and I go in and I shake everyone's hand on the way in and on the way out. And that's how he nailed every single audition. And that's how he nailed our audition. And he's really good at it. And that takes the pressure off. So if I'm a basketball player, if you want to translate to the basketball court, what do you say to a basketball player who's feeling like the nerves of Grady, right? You don't say, right? You don't say like go out there and score 55 points. You don't say go out there and be your true self. No, you go out there and you say you're going to slide your feet for at least 3 seconds with everyone you defend. You're going to provide at least 3 seconds of resistance for every single person you defend. You're not going to stop Jalen Brunson, but you're going to give me 3 seconds of containment on the ball. Number 2, you're going to take every single shot, open shot that you see. Every open shot you see, you're going to take in rhythm with confidence. And step 3, you're going to run hard in transition and crash the glass. That's it. That's it. Okay. That is all I need from you. Do those 3 things. You will get consistent minutes. Don't do those 3 things. You're never getting another minute again. Boom. Control the controllable, right? From Scottie Barnes, it's the same thing. I want to be a leader out there. I want to push and transition, and I want to be aggressive on both ends. That's it. Make shots, miss shots. You can't control that. Get the fouls. Don't get the fouls. The Raptors are a young team. Tonight, they were a young team that was also extremely immature. For most of the season, they've been a young team that is relatively mature given their young age. Tonight, they were a young team that was exposed for being immature by a team that has championship aspirations and one of the highest payrolls in the NBA. So, yeah. All the elite great players say the same thing. The game slows down for them. I have a feeling a lot of our players are opposite, playing frantically and losing control. Jakob looked absolutely frantic out there. Scottie looked absolutely frantic out there. Ingram looks pretty calm, actually. Grady looked totally frantic out there. Jamal at times looked frantic, at times looked calm. Jacoby looked really cool as a cucumber. I'm not just saying that because he made his shots. Like, he, generally speaking, just felt very dialed in and very unfazed by the moment. Calvin X said the team isn't looking good these days, regardless of this game. I feel they will be a sub 500 team going forward. Hopefully things get better when RJ comes back. Well, I don't know if things will necessarily get better if RJ comes back because I think if you look at our schedule, like, I mean, they're not going to get worse. Okay, they're not going to get worse. They're not going to get worse because you're playing players who are obviously worse than RJ Barrett. And RJ Barrett coming back might be like the death sentence for, you know, Grady Dick getting minutes at all. Because at this point, I don't know how you hold Jacoby and Ochai below Grady. I mean, Ochai, sure, but like if you're going into a playoff series tomorrow, what's your 9-man rotation? Because you're not going 10 deep in the playoffs. So your starters are set. So those 5 guys. Then Mamu, Jamal Shed, CMB, and Jacoby, right? Grady is 10th or 11th in your rotation right now, and that's generous. That's very generous. And that is assuming that Jonathan Mobo does not take a jump up at some point. That's assuming you don't get a backup center like Day'Ron Sharp. So Grady is dangerously close to like the Raptors have, traded Grady Dick. I get the theory of him. I get the value of it. But the Raptors, if they show me anything over the last 3, 4 years, they're going to drag this out Malachi Flynn style until it is absolutely demonstrably proven that he is not going to become that. Now, Grady has had some very, very encouraging stretches in Toronto. How much you want to buy into that is really up to you. Uh, Manny Crypto said Mobo needs to play. We are in agreement. Jonathan Mobo came in garbage time and was pretty okay. They must be impressed with Grady in practice or they're showcasing him. No. Mo Hanid said, "No, I'm from Charlotte. That's not going to work." What? I don't know. Darko Rakovic has a record with 0-10 versus the Raptors versus the Knicks in his coaching career. Where you been? Well, this is fair. Kalinek said, "Rob, I'm curious. What moves you want to see at the trade deadline this year?" I would like to see this entire team traded. I don't know. No, I wouldn't mind trading Grady, but I don't think that's relevant or necessarily necessary. Ochai for a center is the first thing I would do. I would probably invest in a backup combo guard as well. Yeah, those 2 things. So if Malik Monk, Keon Ellis, and Day'Ron Sharp become available, I would move heaven and earth to get those 3 players in Toronto. I think they would make a very big difference. Should we draft a center prospect? Losing Ulrich was brutal. A lot of good centers in this year's draft. Yeah, a lot of good centers in this year's draft. Anyways, y'all, a 1 hour and 4-minute post game. This is going to be super long. And honestly, I'm very tired. I'm actually falling asleep while talking. I don't know if you can tell from like just how I've been talking. Sometimes I'm like talking and I'm like, wow, I'm really sleepy. I got up for the panel today, but I went to sleep at 7 a.m. last night. So I went to sleep 7 a.m., woke up at like 9 a.m., watched back the games yesterday. Now I'm thinking I need to go and watch the BYU game because AJ DeBonsa apparently scored or assisted on 36 out of 40 points in a historic comeback win for BYU. So now I really want to watch that game. And at the same time, my eyes are drifting off and I feel so sleepy. I'm so tired. Like I can't tell you how tired I am. So push through this live, but better days are ahead. The Raptors will be fine. I understand this is very disappointing for some people, but like trust the process, man. You got to trust the process. Brandon Ingram looks really good. He's played more games. He's very healthy. Touch wood right now. He looks good. That's a huge bet that you made this offseason, and that looks fine. Jury is still out on whether CMB, Jacoby Walter, these were the right picks, but man, like playing in a game like this against a veteran behemoth squad that's super large, and we all love OG here. We talk about him all the time. We're like, oh man, we're an OG and an OB away. We're an OG and well, yeah, the team that has OG, they used him tonight, and he was pretty good. He was pretty good. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one, and a big thank you to Double M and Recruiter Dude and Double M again for the super chats. I appreciate y'all very, very much. And a big, big reminder to people who are members of this channel. If you are a member, we did a members live on Sunday about the expected value of basketball results. And I think it was a pretty good one. So if you haven't watched that, definitely go watch it. And if you're not a member, well, I apologize, but I'll summarize it very quickly for you here. Basically, basketball decisions should not be considered based on outcomes, but rather on the expected outcomes of those results. Both on the court and off the court, trades, draft picks, all of it should be pushed through the value proposition of the EV. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and have a good night. And please don't let this ruin your night, man. Tomorrow's Wednesday or today's Wednesday. It's a good day. It's a new day. The Raptors are obviously very tired. They're very banged up. And, RJ Barrett, for those of you who believe he will solve all the problems, Immanuel Quickley is sick right now. This just felt like a team that kind of came out and just went through the motions. Let's be real. This was not a team that would they were happy to be there. Okay. They were happy to be there. And hopefully, this is a nice teaching moment for Darko where he can break down the film and just rip into Scottie Barnes in tomorrow's film session, then send the team home for like 2-3 days, spend some time with your family. It's a nice little break, in the middle of the season. We gear up for the real part of the season next, okay? The part of basketball, just want to throw this out there, the part of the basketball season that's actually serious is like from December 20th till about March. And then April, May basketball is total bullshit. So April basketball is total horseshit. That's just playoff posturing, resting, all that stuff. The real NBA season starts in December, like mid-December, December 15th, 16th, 17th, etc. The NBA Cup Finals will basically launch the NBA official season. What you have right now, if you're the Toronto Raptors, is you have a 15-11 head start on the season. You're 26 games into the season. That is roughly about 30% of your season played out right now, and you're 4 games above 500. If you continue to play at this pace, you will be a borderline 50-win team. And you're on the verge. You're coming off of a lot of losses. You know what I mean? Are these coffee emojis? Dude, I'm not having coffee right now. I want to sleep so badly. I also ate a whole bunch of Chinese food, which I made. And I think I overstuffed myself. So now I feel very, very tired on that too. Please give this video a like, and I will be higher energy tomorrow or the next day when we do a live next. Peace, guys. Have a good night.